Hi everyone! Get ready to dive into the exciting world of creating 3D limbs with our custom-built features. We've crafted this tool especially for you and the latest After Effects. You'll find the 3D limbs in the Super 3D extension under the Rig set. It's not just one limb, but a set of different styles. Click on the I button at the top left corner of the limbs to open the limbs interface, where you can change the styling and run some helpful functions. The interface is divided into three main sections. The preview section displays the image of the limbs based on the selected style options. The function section contains helpful tools such as creating a simple model without a rig, toggling between the 3D and 2D views, and duplicating limbs. The styling section is for customizing the styling of the limbs. Want slim mechanical limbs for your robot dance party? Or maybe thick chunky limbs for a cartoon giant? Just adjust the thickness and you're good to go. And don't forget the cap styling, rounded for a friendly look or flat for a more serious vibe. All of them can be combined, and we've been working on extending this family of different styles to give you even more creative options. Creating a 3D limb is simple. Select the limb type, select the material on the right panel, and click the Create button. The limbs are GOTF models with built-in animations that appear in the beta After Effects 24 version. While working in the beta, there is one inconvenient aspect. Currently, After Effects does not allow us to turn on animation on GOTF automatically, so we need to switch it manually. Open the limb composition, unfold the limb layer, and in the animation options, select the first animation. We believe the developers will fix this issue soon, so it will no longer be an issue. In the meantime, this manual step ensures that your limb animation are ready to use. Now you can move the controllers to manipulate the rig. By default, the rig uses a 3D layer and advanced 3D engine. If you notice performance issues in the preview, you can select the draft 3D mode. The animation will be much smoother. Let's look at the additional help functions. The first function simply allows you to add a limb without a rig if you need it for some tests. Duplicate limb, creating copies of your 3D limb with its rig in a snap. It is important to note that this function duplicates the same limb composition. So if you try to change the limb material in it, it will affect all duplicated rigs. This can be advantageous when you want to make global changes to all instances of a limb, but it's something to keep in mind if you need individual control over each duplicated limb. Need to speed up your preview? Toggle Proxy is your best friend. It switches between a 3D layer and a 2D shape, making your workflow smoother. Select a layer to switch one layer, or select nothing to toggle all limbs in the composition. Toggling between a 3D layer and a 2D shape can significantly improve your preview performance. This feature is especially handy when working with complex scenes or multiple limbs, as it allows you to focus on the animation without being bogged down by the rendering time. If you need to replace the model with another style, the Replace function makes it easy. Select the model precomposition, select another style or material, and click Replace. It's fast and easy. This rig is based on our Crazy Shape slider rig. We will describe how it works later. All rig controllers are located in the composition with a 3D model and bottom controller. Let's look at the controls on the bottom layer. Not all settings are useful for us and are needed only for correct functionality. Rig rotation disables the limb rotation, and link position disables the position link between the limb and controllers. This could be useful if you need to collect controllers outside the model and control them from a more convenient place. length in out is needed for correct controller positioning because we can't link to the model polygons as we can do to shapes. Below them are two main features, auto-rotate and auto-flip. Imagine needing to add a hand or object to the end controller. By default, it won't rotate with the limb. But if you enable the auto-rotate toggle, it will. Both scenarios are useful for different animation needs. For example, if you are animating a character waving, you'd want the hand to rotate with the arm. But if you are animating a character holding a static object, you might want the object to remain in place while the arm moves. We don't need special controllers to change limb direction because it's a 3D layer. We can just rotate the layer. But if we disable the 3D mode, we have a special limb direction property that rotates the model inside the composition. And that's cool. Essential properties allow us to do almost everything with layers inside the composition, which will not affect the properties themselves. Here is what I mean. If you apply the duplicate function as I've mentioned before, it will just use the same limb. However, with essential properties, you can rotate them independently. So let's go back to the last auto-flip feature. Depending on the rig's rotation angle, it allows the automatic limb rotation from side to side. This helps to make such animations much faster. You can see the angle of flipping here, the black shape inside the top controller. This angle can be adjusted with the flip range and flip angle sliders. It looks really cool for the 3D limbs. We are very excited about all these features, but here is the main limitation. This rig works best for 2D plane animations similar to other rigging tools in After Effects. It's perfect for 3D styling features and integrating with other 3D models in advanced 3D engine composition. Technically, we can rotate the model on any axis. However, due to the core rig mechanics, it perfectly works only in 2D space. You can also make controllers as 3D layers and try to manipulate them in 3D space. Just remember that it will work incorrectly on some angles. That's all the main things. Let's look at its practical features. Let's add an environment light to watch your 3D limb come to life with realistic shading and depth. This is possible due to the enabled collapse transformation in the limb layer, making the 3D GLTF model act as if it were in the same composition. This allows us to work in three different ways. The first is this one, a 3D limb in 3D space. But as we mentioned in the previous lessons and will discuss in the next ones, it has its limitations. We can't use effects on such 3D layers. The second way is to disable collapse transformations. This allows us to work with effects and could fix some 3D issues. Of course, if we try to rotate the layer, it will look flat. However, thanks to our rig, we can continue to use and rotate the model using essential properties. Finally, we can disable the 3D mode and start working with layers in a simple 2D composition, using all possible effects without 3D and 2D conflicts. In Lesson 7, I will explain in more detail the benefits of working in the 2D and 3D modes. And the last exciting feature. Our rig is based on time remap. If you open the composition with a limb, you will notice that the animation of the limb is just played over seconds. So technically, we control the time of animation. This means we can add more details and animation to this rig, without the need for additional interactions with extensions, expressions, or other elements that might be limiting you. You can use effects for deformations and recolor the rig. It requires a simple frame-by-frame technique to repeat the limb movements. And it opens to us huge artistic possibilities that go beyond our course. Let's use our limbs in this practical task by animating a cow's movement. We've prepared some basic animations to demonstrate how the limbs work. Open the Limbs panel, select the bold round limb, and clay white material. Then click Create. Open the limb composition and select the first animation. We don't need to repeat this step for other limbs. To move the leg in 3D space, we need to enable the 3D mode on the controller layers. This will be the right back limb. Adjust the leg size to approximately 50% scale. I'll place it behind the cow. Great. Moving the bottom controller changes the limb's knee position. If the limb seems too large, you can easily fix this. Select the composition, set the limb thickness to medium, and click Replace. The GOTF file will be replaced with a new one while maintaining the limb's position. Let's adjust the limb's material color to match the body. Select the limb composition and click the Parse GOTF Material button. We're interested in the base color. Click the white color button and select a light blue color. The texture currently appears too detailed, so we need to adjust its scale. In the Transform Material block, set the scale to 0.2. This will adjust the scale of all textures for this material. Done. Now I'll add the hoof to the exact bottom controller position by holding down Shift and linking it with the end controller. All that's left is to adjust its scale and position, like so. We've prepared the special cow body CTR layer for convenience. For animation purposes, it's better to keep the bottom controller on the ground. Remove the parent from it. Now, moving the body controller won't affect the hoof position. We need more legs. We can easily duplicate them with new controllers. Select the limb composition, then click the Duplicate function in the limb's interface. Let's verify that the new limb is working. Yes, excellent. Duplicate the hoof and add it to the new limb. The next step is simply to repeat this process 2 more times. We'll position the left limbs a bit closer to the camera for better depth. For a walking animation, we'll start with one limb, then copy and paste the animation to the other limbs with slight time offsets. Our walk cycle will be exactly 1 second long and created using 4 keyframes. It will be a classic arc movement, moving up and down with easings and then back linearly. Let's begin with the left back leg. The cow is moving left, so set the first keyframe on frame 0, the starting position. This is where the hoof is planted on the ground, ready to push off. Place the second keyframe on frame 8 at the top of the arc. Here, the leg is lifted and moving forward. Add the third keyframe at frame 12, at the bottom left, where the hoof makes contact with the ground again. Finally, set the fourth keyframe at 1 second, back at the starting position to complete the cycle. For the first 3 keyframes, we will make easy ease to add speeding up and slowing down by pressing the F9 key. Let's adjust the path movement using the pen tool to make it more smooth on the top. Now let's adjust the easings for a more natural movement. For the first keyframe, set a slow start but not quite at 0 speed. This simulates the initial push off the ground. As the leg lifts, gradually increase speed towards the top of the arc. At the second keyframe, the top, ease in slowly to create a brief moment of suspension. Coming down, increase the speed again as the hoof approaches the ground. For the contact with the ground, use a sharper ease to show the impact. Finally, apply linear movement as the leg returns to the starting position, ready for the next cycle. Remember to fine-tune these easings by adjusting the graph editor curves. The goal is to achieve a smooth, natural-looking walk cycle that captures the weight and momentum of the cow's movement. Once you are satisfied with this leg's animation, you can copy and paste it to the other legs. The legs will be misaligned, but it's easy to select all the keyframes and adjust their position. Let's make a looped animation using expressions so we don't have to copy the keyframes too much. In Motion Tools, we have prepared a script that will add an expression to loop the animation after and before, so we can easily offset keyframes in any direction. Great. To make legs a bit more realistic with better depth, we can rotate the knee outward by using the limb direction property. This property rotates the model inside the composition, so this rotation won't break anything like it could if we tried to rotate the composition layer. To finish the walk cycle, let's offset the legs animation. For this animation and a 24 frames per second composition, a 6-frame offset will be optimal. Move the keyframes of the front left leg, then the back right, and finally the top right leg. We've also added simple curved body animation with offset rotation. And it's done. Super 3D helps us work with 3D layers as if we were working with 2D layers. It has many features that can help make the rig cooler and more complex. We look forward to seeing how you use it in your workflow. Good luck and see you soon.